Hey, Nick here with another Crabmeat Devlog, I guess. I guess I'm doing these a lot. I'm showing my face this time, but people who have been watching the streams know what I look like already. But hello, YouTube and Steam News people. So I was on holiday for a month, then I got sick. So not a lot, but also a lot happened. Actually made quite a lot of progress after coming back. And the game is still developing on. I've been like really refining. We hit MVP last milestone, which was end of October. Sorry, start of October. We hit the MVP for the game, so that means we had a build that if I was desperate, got hit by the bus, we could ship it. The next thing was okay. We've got that build. We've got like a stable candidate, but like, what could we do to actually like take the game from like okay, it's kind of okay. It could be released to like what's missing, what could be better. So I've been working on some of those things. Some of them are small, and I think it is really a lot of small things that are going to come together. Some of it's little details. So I'm just going to show those off today, and we'll be jumping around a little bit at different parts of the game. So start with, let's have a look at a small detail, which is what happens when you collect crabs. So a change I made was that I wanted the trap to have more physics. So this applies in two contexts. One, when the trap is being pulled up on the winch, it's now actually like wobbly. Swing it over, it like inherits the motion. And then if we go up here, if we were to say attach another trap, it actually like has a little bit of physics there. And it's a small change, right? But I think it adds a lot. But importantly, when we're down here, and we're emptying our trap. You no longer press a button to drop the things. You actually click on the trap. Character reaches out and drops it, which is just a little bit more tactile. And there's some new additions to the traps. Added lots of little fish that can... So this like procedurally gets added to the traps, just the way the crabs get added really as well. Just add a little bit of visual already. Now I did add a lot of other things as well. So the system that let me add fish also allowed me to add lots of other stuff. So there are some secrets that you'll get throughout the game. But I'm just going to add some fish because it's fun. 15 fish. Holy moly. Maybe some more fish. So there's a couple of different fish types that can appear. I think there's 4 currently. I want to add some more. I found some more references. These are all fish that you can find in the Antarctic. They're like from photos of fish that I just like textured on. And yeah, they just add a little bit to the sort of experience of crabbing, and it randomly gets added whenever you collect crabs. Now, some of you may know Unity had a security issue that had been in all versions of Unity for a long time, and I obviously had to fix it because this game was going to ship previously on a version of Unity that had that issue, and I had to bump it up to a new version. In doing so, I discovered like a fundamental flaw, a bug in Unity that was only caused by my game. No one had reported it yet on the forums, and no one had reported it for the bug report system. And I think it is the unique quirk of the way that I do input in this game. Basically, if I was holding down the right mouse and hit left click, the input would just not be registered in the newer versions of Unity. And that was because of some code I was running that had nothing to do with input. It had nothing to do with mouse presses. It was to do with mouse position on screen. But nonetheless, the bug existed, and I had to find a workaround. But that was another thing that I just had to deal with. I was not expecting to deal with basically 2 months ago, but now I had. But it is fixed. The temporary fix works, but hopefully they'll fix it for real later. So the next thing I changed was I really wanted the repair system to just have a little bit more detail. So that was 2 parts. One, there's 2 ways that you can repair something in the game. You always use the repair torch that you're given when you just load up and get the game going. But I wanted there to just be a little bit more interaction. Previously, you would go up to an object that was broken, you would just pull out the repair torch, and you would just burn it until it went to 100%. So now, I'll show you how it works for... we want to damage some components on our ship. We damage all the components. There we go. So, something might be attacking your ship, perhaps, and damages the different components, trying to stop you from achieving your goals. Instead of just clicking on the whole thing, it spawns these little damage nodes, and those need to be targeted rather than the whole collider. And because they're little nodes, I was able to add like a bit of better feedback Did a little bit of sound pass, and I think Mitch will do some nicer sound soon. But just makes it a little bit more tactile to repair things. And to go along with that, if we, say, damage the ship itself instead of a component. So the ship, we just collided with something in the world, let's imagine. Ship begins leaking. So we always used to spawn things that would fill the boat with water, but it would basically be... It would never actually fill up. You had to collide a certain amount of times. Now, even with a small leak, you can potentially sink the boat. And as that water builds slowly, and it builds more the more damage you have to the ship, up to a limit. So, we've repaired everything on our ship, but there's still water. That's a new system. So previously, if you repaired everything, the water would just immediately go down. Just animate based on how much damage there was. Now the water is independent of the damage, and you have to interact with this bilge pump in order to get it up. So you can see the capacity of the water. We're still nowhere near flooding, but we should empty it anyway. So you crank this little lever to just empty it back out. Oh, got a little bit more water. There we go. So now the bilge pump has successfully emptied the water, which is obviously not very realistic, but it just adds a little bit more tension to the repair system and gives you like a nice extra layer of interaction. Another big change that I made was improving the lighting in the game and the color grading. So the color grading was simple, just like there was some elements to the color grading that I wanted to tweak. The game had a kind of grayish look that I wanted to remove. Let's get this fixed up. And got to keep the boat in good condition, you guys. But you can see, like, it's still... It might still change, but like I just feel like it just feels a little bit better. And lighting-wise, what I was able to do is add a lot more lights to the boat, especially in... just in all contexts, actually. So I implemented a culling system, which we can turn off if we need to, in options. If you think your computer can handle it, you can turn it off and every light will always be enabled. Sure, you want that? Go you. But it's on by default because it adds quite a lot of performance back. Like, it saves quite a lot of performance. So every section of the boat is sectioned up into different zones, and those zones have lights in them. And based on where the player is and where they're looking, we turn on lights. Up to a limited amount of zones. So, for example, you know, we're in the cabin now. All the cabin lights turn on. We leave the cabin. We're not in the cabin. We're looking at the cabin. Cabin lights on. People who know about rendering, that's just an easy optimization win. It was more working out a system for like deciding how to color those lights, because it's quite expensive, especially because all my lights have shadows. And again, you can turn it on if you feel like you want to have fully dynamic lights at all times. You can do that. You do notice some popping in some places. Like here's a good example of where there's popping. I would like to improve that, but I think as a compromise to the game running on more computers. And again, it's a quality setting. You can turn it off. Potentially there's some middle ground that I can find. I think it's a big improvement. The next thing I worked on was ship computers. So previously we had a display in the boat that displayed the status of traps. We had a display that displayed the status of the ship's components, and we had another, and that also had the map. What I've decided to do was build it all into one, put it on a single camera, render it to a render texture, and then have that render texture on a model. It's very similar to how the map is displayed and set up. Actually, it's very similar code. And we also don't render the camera unless the player is like roughly in view. So this sort of fuses it all into one. You're on like, this is the ship computer. You can see all the different elements of the boat. But because we're rendering to a single texture, it made it quite trivial to add this around the boat. So that ship and all that information is now available in more places. When you're down here, you can come and see the status of your traps. I'm using a cheat right now, so for some reason I have tons of traps. And this is also available in the engine room. So we can go in the engine room or the lower decks, and we can also see what's happening down here. So I feel like that just adds, a little bit more information to the player when they need it and wherever they need to access it from. So another thing I worked on was I'd always felt like the parasites were a little bit uninteractive for the player. Like, you would walk up to them, you could kill them, but they would just appear out of nowhere and they would just be annoying. So I wanted to make it a little bit more interactive and also make them a little bit more alive, make them more responsive. So firstly, that was making them not just spawn in the location that they wanted to attack. They were already spawning off screen, but now they'll spawn off screen and then move to the location and jump on it. There's a little bit of jank, but having them actually move around just gives them a little bit of life that wasn't otherwise there. And if we get too close, they'll get angry. Now, we can kill them and interrupt that. But if we wait too long, as you can see, they'll jump on your face and do some damage. So there's some sound missing there. We still need to get a sound pass in. But, for the players who are just waiting for a little bit too long, this makes them a bit more responsive and makes them feel alive in a way that they weren't before. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed this little highlight, and I'll see you on the next one.